Andrew McCarthy with us right now, National Review Institute senior fellow, Fox News contributor, so much more, but a brilliant legal mind. So, Andrew, maybe you can help me with, I know it gets to be the old Nixonian thing, what did the president know and when did he know it? But maybe more disturbing here could be, did the president know anything? And if he didn't, then should that be the bigger concern here? Because it then brings the possibility of other folks who took advantage of either his name or his status to secret documents out of the White House or the vice president's mansion or wherever he got them from. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, the documents didn't walk into his personal spaces by themselves, right? They had to get there somehow. He's the common figure, and they're not accusing anyone at the moment, Neil, of either planting them or being the one who moved them in a way that now makes it look like President Biden did. What they've come out basically and said this was inadvertently misplaced. The problem I think they have, as Peter just laid out, what the White House is saying on behalf of the president, is that inadvertently misplaced is not a defense to a charge of mishandling classified information. Unlike other crimes where you have to prove that a person willfully violated the law, the situation with classified information is different. People in the government who are trusted, who are authorized to have classified information, get that privileged access only on the basis of making a commitment that they will safeguard the materials. So if they fail to do that, and the statute says if they're grossly negligent in doing that, they're liable even if they didn't intend to harm the country. So that's the problem he has.
I'm wondering, too, a lot of presidents and vice presidents will borrow documents for either they're doing their memoirs or a book with the understanding they'll return them. Now, I don't know in this case whether the National Archives is the entity that you check with to get these documents and promise to return. I know it clearly doesn't run like a library where you have an obligation to return the book. But something goes very wrong here because in none of these instances, in the Biden document case, in the Trump document case, I could go back to the Petraeus document case, and even in the Sandy Berger, hiding some in his sock, I think at the time. The National Archives wasn't the one that discovered these missing documents, and they're the repository for all of this. That's what's disturbing.
Yeah, that's right, Neil. And to the extent they're not the repository for categories of classified information, that's held by the intelligence agencies under very secure conditions. And even, current presidents and top officials of the government, their security clearances give them access to this information, but they're still obliged to hold it and safeguard it in the manner that the law requires. So, even presidents, the reason they have a situation room in the White House is because they have to have a secure place to discuss classified things. And other people who get to handle classified information in the government have to handle it in places that the government either is in charge of, they're actual government facilities, or they're places that the government has set up in someone's home that are secured for these purposes. You can't just, walk around with them or even lock them in your Corvette.
So just to understand, Andrew, taking classified documents out of the White House all the way up to you being a president, you can't do. It's against the law, right?
Yeah, you have to maintain the documents the way that the law requires that they be maintained, and that's in an authorized place. What the statute talks about, what the Attorney General talked about yesterday, was that these places where these documents were located were unauthorized locations.
So I don't know what power a vice president has. Remember, these are documents in 2017. Joe Biden has already stepped out of office, so he has no power anymore, even as a sitting vice president. I don't know if any powers afforded a sitting vice president. Donald Trump, in the case of saying that he was declassifying classified materials because he was president, that assumes that at the time he was taking them, he was still president. We still don't know that. But the bottom line is you just can't do this stuff, no matter whether you're a sitting president or not, right?
Yeah. Neil, when the vice president is actually serving as vice president, he has authority to classify things and he has the authority to declassify only those things which he has classified. Only the president has the authority to declassify anything he chooses to, no matter what agency it comes from. But a vice president who's out of office has no authority either to classify or declassify.
But to clarify here, a president out of office doesn't have that authority either.
Also correct, yes.
Got it. All right, I think I summed up my vast legal series of questions, Andrew, so thank you for that. But man, oh
Thanks,
man,
Neil.
this is going to be a long ride, my friend. Andrew McCarthy.